once you decide to go with the solution. So my first question actually is to Ryan. I just wanted to ask, because you talked about the data migration strategies, but let's assume you already migrated all the data. It's not the end of the game, because as soon as you finish the implementation, you can still face some resistance from your customers, right? So, or from the employees themselves. So how do you manage change management across, let's say, a company who is willing to use Odoo?
Yeah, for the change management, so first of all, that the key thing to prepare for your change management system, you need to have a team to work with you on the ERP project. So first of all, the team, then you need to have the ERP champion, and then you have the key member from each department. Let's say you have accounting department, you have the key member there. Manufacturing, you have a key member. So that's the core team. You need to form a core team first. And then from there, we work with the ERP champion and work with the core team to transfer the knowledge to them. And then the ERP champion can stay with you to support you in any change management within the rest of the company.
Actually, at Odoo internally, we also work in this way. We're trying to get, especially for bigger customers, for smaller customers, we try to speak to one person only. Because we're trying to streamline the communication. If you talk to 5 different people, it gets really tricky and communication can get lost. But when you work with bigger companies, you don't have a choice. You have a CEO that has 500 employees to manage, and you can't, get his time once a week. It's almost impossible. So we have these champions, as you say, that so the head of accounting, for example, that will prepare and help with accounting, right? So, and manufacturing head of. So this is also part of our methodology internally at Odoo. I have another question, but this is for Jerry. So Jerry mentioned that the differences between working with one single software or integrated solution. But I think that's probably the biggest question for everybody in this room tonight is, okay, will it fit my requirements? Right? How do I know if it fits my requirements?
Odoo itself? Yeah. So the biggest thing that you need to do in your business is when you're determining what solution to choose is to fully understand all of the processes in your business. So before you even go out and just make a decision, even if you loved what you saw at Odoo today, make sure you fully understand what you need to solve in your business and you understand your processes and how it works. And you involve those key people, those champions from each of your departments in that change. So if you don't just make the decision as a business owner here and go, I loved Odoo, I saw it, and go home and we're going to put it in next week, because you will find change and a resistance to change in that process. But if you have the involvement of your team and you speak to all your team members and say, what is it that we need, what do we need to solve, this is what Odoo can do, we should test it out, then understand those processes and then test it fully. That's what we do for every client. We say, Odoo, I think is a great fit, but we're going to take you through a personalized demonstration process to really make sure it works for your business, because that's how you know if it's the right fit.
Absolutely. I think that's one thing that we face a lot is also during the sales process, right? You realize that sometimes it's not a great fit. So if you're trying to sell it anyway, sometimes it's just not the right fit. I mean, Odoo is not magic. Odoo will not solve all your life problems, of course.
Could get pretty close.
Yeah, but yeah, so sometimes it's okay to say, no, it's not the right fit. So you might need to go for integrated apps because your industry is so specific. But yeah, that might be the case. But at least it's important to give it a try and to reach out to our partners or us here in direct sales to try to redirect you to one direction to say, okay, well, this is something we've never seen before, or this is something we can work with. Okay, and so for Andrew as well. So your presentation was quite technical. It was more of the cloud computing hosting, which is actually very crucial to understand once our clients wants to go for Odoo. Right? Somebody asked the question about, do I need to be on the cloud? I think it was you, sir. So I think that's quite interesting. And how do you know when is the right time for them to digitize? When is the right time for them to go on the cloud? When is the right time to stay on premise? When is the right time to digitize and say as a whole?
Yeah, it's actually specific for certain solution, but let's focus on Odoo. So Odoo is quite easy, straightforward. If today you don't have any needs for customizations, so I suggest you start with Odoo SaaS, the cheapest way and the most available way. So you can use exactly what they provided, and even in Odoo SaaS, you can also do Odoo Studio, which allow you to add on the fields, add the table, do pivoting, do a lot of things yourself, so no coding required. So if no coding required, Odoo SaaS is the best way. So the next step is if you have coding required, let's say you want to integrate to Zero, you want to integrate any other solution that there are extra code outside Odoo that you need to deploy. So Odoo.sh will be the best options because you can just immediately buy the hosting from Odoo and manage by Odoo, and the only thing that you need to manage out of Odoo, and the only thing that Odoo will not manage is the code, the extra code that you customize and you coding. So the rest is Odoo take care. Like if Odoo have any bugs, they will release that in RSS, so you don't need to release yourself. And the third option is usually only when you reach to a certain size of business, and when you have a dedicated IT department or an IT partner that take care for you, then you can go with the third option, which is to manage on your own. So there must be a very special reason why you need to do so. Usually because you already have infrastructure there. So like the case study I showed just now, they already buy the AWS, they already use for other e-commerce. So there's no point for them to have another cloud. So they want to manage everything in one place. Then that's you go to the third option. But usually I don't recommend the user to go to the third option if they not have any special reason why.
Yes, that's right. So if you're interested in Odoo SaaS, so Odoo SaaS, odoo.com, you can just go, as Kilian said, go online, click on try it for free, and then you will be able to customize to a certain degree only. But yeah, and we are recommending you to try the solution out of the box. But then if you realize that your business is really tricky to use, because it doesn't fit Odoo's, let's say, main architecture, it is possible to customize it really extensively. We're trying to reduce the amount of technical, let's say, depth that you guys have on your database, because you will have a lot of issues, let's say, when we upgrade for the next version. So, Kilian also mentioned the fact that you can upgrade for free. Yes, that's true, but if you have thousands and thousands of lines of code that are only to your database, because you decide to customize it a lot, this will create issues when you actually upgrade to your next version, so you have to be ready for that. So that's why we don't recommend it, but it is a possibility, and with the right partner, with the right assistance, you can make that happen. Right? And so that's why we have Odoo SH. So it's also service hosted by Odoo. They're also in Australia, by the way. Both of Odoo.com and Odoo SH servers are in Australia. And but Odoo SH allows you to have, as you said, a PaaS, so this is platform as a service, because you can actually have a platform for developers to code, right? Which is not the case on Odoo.com, which is our SaaS solution. But in the complete other end of the spectrum is on-premise, so you do everything yourself, right? You have to damage. If you have an issue with your server, you have to figure it out by yourself. Odoo cannot help you because we're not hosting you, right? So this is basically the 3 different hosting solutions that we have. Right, so I have one last question for all of you guys, maybe before we go through your questions. You might have questions for our partners as well. You can shoot some at us before we start with the networking session. I don't want to be too long here, so that you guys can enjoy some drinks, some food, and exchange business cards, etc., and maybe go for more detailed flows. But my last question is, according to your experience as a partner, you can actually all answer maybe one by one. What is the biggest roadblock usually that you face in ERP implementation? What is the major pain point that you say, this one again?
People. People can be a problem. So first of all, I'll answer it from the point of view of people that are afraid to go to ERP. So I think one thing to understand is, when we're talking about Odoo as an ERP, we're just talking about the fact that it has lots of modules that can do lots of things, including your accounting and all of the things that an ERP can usually do. So I think the first thing to understand is that Odoo as an ERP is not a difficult ERP to use like a lot of the Microsoft Dynamics, NetSuite and others out there. Back before I found Odoo, we were starting to learn to implement NetSuite, and it took me literally 3 days to do something in there that I could do in Odoo in 30 minutes when I just opened it. So ERPs don't have to be complicated, and that's the biggest thing people worry about when they first move or think about ERPs, is that Odoo's not that difficult. Then in terms of once you choose to implement an ERP, if you go down that path, it really comes down to correct scope, correct testing, correct training. They are the things that if you don't do that right, and you rush it, then you are going to hit problems, and that's where the problems start, because you haven't followed a thorough process.
Yeah, just add on that. So the major thing we facing that is delay. The delay comes from different source, like data migration, from the highly turnover of the staff, employee, so affecting to the training, so about the scoping as well. So all of that. So if we can do the planning carefully, you need to form a team at the beginning, that a team willing to build the system for you, so that you can reduce the turnover of the staff. Next thing, we need to plan for the data migration, as we discussed before. And next thing is about scoping. But another one is about customization. I would like to suggest you to go over the standard function as much as possible. So this will reduce a lot of time for going live and the cost as well.
For me, one of the biggest roadblock I can see is, the first step that usually we engage with the customer is actually we do the analysis phase, which is to identify, compared to what Odoo can offer, based on what you are requiring, what is the gap. Usually there must be a gap, usually there's no beautiful, okay, I can apply 100% of what my business to Odoo. So, end up we have a gap, and then the important things that usually the customer really, like the customer come to us and I want to fill 100% of the gap, which is impossible. So, there's only two ways that we can proceed. Either we go one step ahead, break down the gap into 10 different small scope and identify which one is your priority to go first. And then we roll out in different stages. So that's one of the ways. The other way is that if the gap is too big, then we need to ask ourselves a question whether Odoo fit for you. So, and this too, if we do it wrong, then the whole project after that will go wrong. And end up you will say, okay, Odoo is not good. So Odoo have a very good tagline, which is, if the implementation is failed, it's because of partner, not your products. So we see that in different meanings, but that's the roadblock that I usually see. That we try to commit to yes everything, and then after that we need to pay for what we say.
Just want to add, coming out of the zero world, we were coming from apps that you couldn't customize at all, and our business hit a bit of a roadblock when we were going through that transition, because we could suddenly customize the software. And knowing that you can customize it is great. It can be customized, and it does create complexities later. And that's a whole nother education. We could talk about that for 3 hours. But the reality is if you want to customize, choose exactly what you want to customize and make sure you fully understand why. Understand whether you actually need to make the customization because Odoo doesn't do it, or can your business change to fit their needs. So customizations, yes, they can be drag and drop in the studio, but as soon as you go anything further than that and want to customize it more for a particular industry or something else, it gets a lot harder, and it doesn't take 5 minutes. You get developers, you've got to tell them what to do, they have to build it, they have to test it, we have to test it internally, you guys have to test it. It adds weeks onto, one feature could add weeks onto a scope if it's not being managed correctly. So yeah, 100% delays and costs of customizations can be huge. So try and use Odoo out of the box as much as possible, but get excited that you can customize it when the time comes.
So all these details that partners mentioned here are also, we found them in our methodology as well. Internally at Odoo is something that we also offer for partners, especially partners who start, which is, yes, I think I'm going, which is what we call the PLO, so Partner Leader Onboarding. So we actually train our partner for methodology. Some of them don't need training because they've been doing it for 10 years, and some of them, even though they're already partner for 10 years, they still go for it because we changed our methodology, we have more experience than before. And so here we see that project management is really a huge part of it. Right? So it includes the scope, as you said, the data migration, the preparation, the testing, and just going live and training. So all of this is in addition, let's say, to learning about Odoo. It's about finding cooperation with the right people to make this to make the project a success. Right? So this is what it entails to go for an ERP system, I would say. So yeah, now that if you guys have questions, additional questions, we can take a few ones here for like 5-10 minutes, and then we'll go for the networking. So yes, go ahead.
If you want to migrate your data, do you have to use a partner?
No, not necessarily. You can if you want to. So it depends what kind of data you have. It depends what the size of your company. It depends your scope. So if usually you go to us first, and we realize this is a bigger company that you usually tackle, we actually send this deal to our partners, right? So this is something that we can figure out as well. You can discuss that with our partners. You can discuss that with us, especially since also in Australia right now we still have a very small team. So we don't have technical guys, for example, in Australia at the moment.
You can import your data, prepare your data and import your data yourself, just like we would. There's no special access that we have that you don't have.
Yeah, my question related to that gentleman as well. So again, like if we want to install the Odoo in our own servers, because something like documents, for example, we do a lot of workload, a lot of transaction. So Odoo will check more for that.
So you mean if you are hosted on your own
Yeah,
server?
possible, because we host on our own servers, the document we want faster or something like that. If we host on Odoo, so we do a lot of transactions, so Odoo check more for that one.
Yeah, so if you're hosted on yourself, then you would have to maintain your service by yourself.
Yeah, but in case we host on Odoo, so Odoo will check more for that.
Yes.
I think for Odoo license wise, it's no different between you host on your own or you use a SaaS version. So it's the same cost when you pay to Odoo. But you need to pay more cost to your hostings. That's the first thing. You need to pay more cost to upgrading Odoo. Let's say Odoo release the bug fix every hours. Yeah, so you go to, if you are a customer, you access to the repo, you can see, the push coming every hours. So all this update you need to patch yourself. I mean, you can choose to patch or not, but if you use Odoo access, it's auto patch. But if you are host on your own, you need to patch yourself. So the cost to patch that, the cost of service, you need to do it yourself. That's the second cost. The third cost is you need to make sure that it's up and run 24/7 somehow. You need to have a backup, restore all the high availability. Odoo SLA is quite strong, so I rarely see my customer come and tell me, hey, why my Odoo instance is down. That's the most scared question I have throughout my career. And when I deploy the customer on Odoo SS, I off my hook. I don't need to worry about that. I don't need to ask my technical guy to reboot the instance. So so basically, that's the cost that you manage your infrastructure, you manage application to make sure they're up and running 24/7. So it's a lot of cost to add on top of that, but to say there's no extra cost to Odoo, it's the same.
Yeah, but just would like to add on your question there. You don't have to pay extra to Odoo in that scenario. But if you have a lot of transactions, and then you need to pay, it depends on the hosting service you select. So it may charge you more when you read the data.
But that because we host on Odoo, we use like Odoo.
SS? Sorry, you don't have to pay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
So let's say we use Odoo.sh, right?
Sage, yes.
So the license based on the user. For example, we have one user like 100 per month.
Yeah.
And then, but outside like kind of e-commerce, and then a lot of transaction, a lot of people shopping, and then and how Odoo charge on that one because we host on them, we just buy the license.
Yes, so just to add a little bit to that to clarify, so we have two different hosting solutions that are provided by Odoo, Odoo.com, Odoo Sage. Odoo.com, you have you just, as Andrew said just now, you just pay for license. So you don't have any server monitoring, nothing. So Odoo does it for you. But if you go to Odoo Sage, you have server monitoring, so you can check the performance of your server. But in addition to that, that's also why it's more expensive. So you pay for the normal, let's say, custom plan of Odoo. In addition to that, you pay for the testing database that you have. You pay for the storage that you have. In addition to that, you pay for the amount of server workers that you have, so CPU in a way.
Yeah, like we use like Microsoft Azure AWS, so
Yeah.
they like they charge by on the download or the upload, so
Yeah.
the down data or the up data, so
That's right.
they charge more for that one. So any
That's right. That's why it's also a bit more expensive. You can monitor much more. You can manage your own performance. Right?
I don't think there's another upload video.
Yeah.
I'll do it. But, yeah.
When we implemented Odoo late last year, we chose to run our own server. The business owner was a bit worried about speed on the cloud, and that it was overseas. Now you're saying that the server's in Australia. I'm thinking as an accountant, save money here, and we could put it back to Odoo. Is that possible?
Yes.
If we made some configuration change.
Just pop in the others.
So
It's pretty simple to do that. Copy, you just need someone to migrate the database from where it is now into Odoo SH.
Yes. What?
Just know, like, what's the security level for our company now?
Security levels.
Yeah.
We have a specific page that explains everything with regards to security. Just odoo.com/security. We can talk about it for hours, to be honest. It's very technical, but we have a lot of different security protocols that we have to follow because, you know, after all, we're managing people's data. We're managing a lot of different data.
Yeah,
So,
because it's a big question in Australia at the moment for the data security thing.
yeah. So it is GDPR compliant, right? So this is very important to note. And also, in addition to that, yeah, if you want a very specific detail based on the business, let's say, I don't know, point of sale or, you know, the front end, passwords, the way passwords are hidden and managed, you can find this on odoo.com/security. All right, no more questions. We can take a last one if you have. David?
Thanks. I have a question in regards to the implementation phase because I talk to a lot of business owners who have their own IT department. However, obviously, in terms of like helping them out with our services of implementing it versus them implementing it on their own, last thing I want for them is to like implement it on their own, say it's too difficult and we lose them. But at the same time, I don't want to say I told you so. So, but I saw your experience, Andrew particularly, you have 15 years worth of experience in ERP. Is there like a particular thing that you look for in its experience in the IT department when it comes to implementing the software on their own?
Yes, I have seen a lot of times, you know, like in my whole career, that they decide to do that on their own, and after they come back to us. So, I mean, and sometimes we do together. Sometimes we come back that the whole IT gone because they failed, so they jump all departments. So, yes, I see a lot of them. But my advice to them is, yeah, you know, try first. And because if they don't try first, and usually those that come back to us is stay with us forever. Yeah, those that decide to go with us initially, you know, they may leave us because, you know, they think that they can do better or they can think other people can do better. But once they do it themselves, they know and they're stay forever. So we love this guy's scenario and they come back to us.
Fair enough. Just add on that, we have a lot of customers from a different size. Even they don't have their own IT department, but they can use their own resource to build the ERP software. So we just like give them ad hoc support whenever they need.
And is the templates and things like manufacturing processes, like is the or can you buy templates to people like provide workflows? Could I go to like an Odoo app store and say, hey, I'm going to choose this process? Is that possible?
It's not process driven. You can buy apps for people that have built features that may not be there, and you can install those apps inside your existing Odoo database. So if someone else is
like a business process, like a workflow.
yeah, no,
Does that exist?
not that I've seen. So you can, and it's all important to address your own business processes and test how they may work, and then within the test environment to use Odoo to work out how it will work, so then you can understand how it will work once you implement it, and if there is any customization required. But I haven't seen any business process. We all have our own business processes that we draw up and industry specific, but that's when we're working with clients directly, sort of as your set process that you work through. But none that I've seen you can just buy as sort of standard solutions.
I think if I can just add to that, I think it's very good because we have a lot of clients coming in as startup because they see Odoo actually it's quite cheap for an ERP system. They see it, it's like, oh, but really, David, for example, goes through a qualifications call with them. And it's like, oh, but, I don't have a lot of answers to your questions, David. So they start with us. They don't really have defined processes yet, and this, I would say, is the best opportunity for them to actually adapt to Odoo, because a lot of big companies come to us as well, and they have thousands of requirements, and it becomes difficult to match everything. We need to meet halfway, but when a client doesn't have that strict, let's say, set processes, it's very interesting because they can come to us, they can adapt some of their flows, and they can grow with Odoo much faster and in a standard way, so that long term their database, their data, everything is set up for them. So and every year they benefit from the features from the upgrade. So that's, I would say, it's one of the best use cases when somebody comes to us.
Right.
Okay.